Hello everyone, my name is Anita Ihuman and I am a software developer, technical blogger, a fan of open source and also I love cats. And today I will be speaking on the topic getting started with open source, beginner's guide to contributing. First and foremost, what exactly is open source? You must have heard plenty, lots of speculations and so many things about open source. You must have seen them somewhere on Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever. But you're wondering what open source is. Well, it's easy. Open source is software that has its code, license, and designed to be publicly accessible, which means anyone can actually use, which means you can actually use, modify, and suggest, and also distribute this code without restrictions. But yes, you can still open source code. That is that is what you should know. Yeah, so you must have heard lots of speculations about what open source is, open source is this, and all this must have discouraged you about the idea of open source in general. And I want to counter some of those myths. Yes, one of which is contributions can only be code related. Open source organizations and initiatives is built on collaborative contributions, which means it is not just code related. Now, although most open source projects are built on code, because without the code, there wouldn't be a project to work on. So yeah, open source are not only code related. There are it's made it's put together by the contributions of the designers, the project administrators, the technical writers, and the data analysts, and several other fields, but they're all existing in the open source organization. So it is not just code related, it's not just for software developers. And also, you must have heard that in open source, you are doing free work. And I would like to say that, in as much as yes, it's true that most open source developers actually willingly put in efforts to build the community. But then there are like several benefits that come along with contributing to open source organizations, which we're going to talk about much later in this talk. But I would like to counter the fact that you are doing free work in open source, and that is not correctly true. And also, open source is for experts. Now, so many beginners in the tech ecosystem are discouraged that I am not good enough to contribute to open source code. It's too technical. There's so many words I don't even know. There's so many. They talk about so many things I've not heard about. Yes, because there are so many software and technologies that are used in open source ecosystem, and but then it is not only for experts. And even if you're just a month into the programming or you just a day, you can actually make contributions to open source organizations. And also, you must have heard open source is boring, or you feel open source is boring because there's so many technical things it's talking about. Well, open source is not boring. That's for a fact. Because in open source organizations, you have people interacting. That it goes on just like normal organizations. People interact with each other. People suggest things, events are taking place, conferences are held in open source communities, and so that is far from boring, I would say. And well, if you're wondering how to get started with open source, let's look at some of the ways you can. So, how do I contribute to open source? Let's look at some of the ways you can actually contribute to open source without writing a line of code. So aside fixing issues in open source organizations, taking up code related issues, writing the code base, there are so many other ways you can actually contribute to open source without writing a line of code. And some of which you do not know is starting a project. You can actually start a project and you are invariably contributing to open source project, because by starting a project you are letting other people know that yeah, I checked out this project and it is good enough, and I think and I can recommend it, you should look at this particular project. So starting a project is also a way of contributing to open source projects. And another way of contributing to open source is writing documentation. So if you're good in technical writing or you're good at words and You want to contribute to open source, documenting is also a way of contributing to open source because open source codes are built in such a way that someone who doesn't have like technical background might not be able to understand, which of course, since it's a thing of diversity and different persons collaborating, not just software developers, it needs to be documented. So writing documented the documentation in open source software. Writing documentation of open source software is also a way of contributing to open source. Another way you can also contribute to open source is designing. So if you are a designer and you feel that your skills are not needed in open source ecosystem, I'd like to tell you today that yeah, your designs are needed and your ideas are needed. So just contribute to open source, get involved in an open source project. And another way you can also contribute is promoting open source projects by tweeting about it and writing blog posts about it. This is a way of also contributing to open source and advocating for open source projects. Now, if you've been a part of an organization and you feel like, yeah, I need to actually stand in, I can stand up for this particular project and then vouch for it that, yeah, this project is good enough, and refer someone else to it. That is also a way of contributing to open source. And another way you can contribute is by translation. So in the open source environment, there are contributions from all around the world, not just Africa or not just Europe. They're like everywhere. So we need translations because most persons are not very familiar with English, and so writing down the documentation in different languages, translating the documentation to different languages, is also a way of contributing to open source because you are also letting people know that yeah, they're welcome, even if they're not good with, even if they're not like very grounded in English or a particular language. So you can help it by translating the documentations of an open source project and educating other people, educating people about open source, or some persons would call it evangelism, open source evangelism. So that is also a way of contributing to open source. And also sponsoring a project. Most open source projects are just starting up and they need lots of sponsors. And so if you feel like, yeah, this project is good enough, it looks like it has great potentials and will be of benefit to the society or to the community. Sponsoring that project is also a way of contributing to open source project. So where do I begin? This was the question I asked myself one time. And I know that I can do this and I can do that, but then how do I start? There are like different ways you can get involved with open source. There's like no particular pathway. You can get involved by first of joining a community. So if you have heard of an open source community that you feel that yeah you're passionate of you like this community and you want to be a part of this community, you can reach out to the community either joining their Slack channel, making an introduction, or by looking for any means which you know that yeah this community members engage there, any platform which the community members engage and then introduce yourself and tell them you want to be a part, and then that's a way to begin. Another way to get started is by volunteering at open source events. By volunteering at open source events, either as a moderator or an event planner or whatever the voluntary act you're doing is. It's also a way to get involved with open source. And also, you can take up issues on GitHub and on GitLab or whatever the platform is. But then fixing the code base is also a way of contributing to open source. So if you're a developer and or technical writer or designer, there are various issues, there are documentation issues, there are design issues, and also technically code related issues. So whichever issue it is, you can just take it up on GitHub. And that is also a way to get started when contributing. And you can also contribute, get involved by participating in a Hacktoberfest. So Hacktoberfest is an open source event that happens every October that welcomes contributors from all around the world. and the open source organizations put out issues that are just specifically for the Hacktober first participants. So by fixing about 2 to 3 issues, you are participating in the Hacktober first, and that is a way to also get started when contributing to open source. So the benefits of open source to your career growth. You would imagining or assuming, okay, I've made contributions. How does this contribution I made actually help me in my career? How does this help me to become an expert in this field that I am? Well, contributing to open source comes with a lot of benefits, and most of which are not just financial, but it helps. First and foremost, it improves your technical skills and experiences. So open source code are like have like several technologies that I didn't even know about. So if you are like unfamiliar with a particular technology, getting into open source would help you get familiarized and also increase your skill set that you and with this experience you can put it in your resume and when applying for jobs it will be also a top up for you. And also another way that open source helps your career growth is by enhancing your soft skills. So because they're like so many interactions and collaborations going on, you get to like understand how to deal with interpersonal interactions, your communication skills, your teamwork spirit, and like several other skills that getting interacting with people comes with. So open source also enhances your soft skills and also contributing to open source grows your network. Now I can't overemphasize on the importance of a network in the to your technical growth, to your career growth, but getting involved with open source because some environment where you see people from the far and wide, from the ups and downs of life, and like experts in the field and also newbies in the field, get to interact with these people and then get to know them better in a way that you can actually reach out to persons or these people one on one and they will actually want to listen to you. If you have suggestions or you have ideas that you want to share with someone, you can actually contact the persons that you've met in this open source organization and they will be willing to actually hear your thoughts. And also, it also helps with community recognitions. If you have seen or if you have observed on Twitter and LinkedIn, you must have seen people tweet, I just became a GitHub star, or I just became a good developer expert, or I just became a DevOps engineer. All these are recognitions that people earn from contribute from their contributions they make to the open source community. So this is also a growth that would actually be very, very tangible in your career. And another one is you gain exposure to new programming languages. Open source softwares are built on so many technologies and some of which I didn't even know existed. And by contributing to this project, you like become familiar with them enough that you can actually work on your personal project while using these programming languages or these frameworks that you must have gotten familiar with. Yes, so there's several other benefits that open source has to your career growth, but then I'll stop at that. And yeah, for a bonus, let us look at how to create your first pull request if you have not done this before and getting started with your contributions. If you've not made a pull request before or if you've not made a contribution to open source before, this is like the easiest way to actually get started. First off, by creating a pull request. So how do I create a pull request? Yeah, so if you go to GitHub, like I said earlier, there is a feature that has on GitHub for Explore. Just at the top left over here, you can explore or you can check here and then you see like numerous open source organizations. Yeah, and then make a search. So easiest way to do that is by searching for a good first issue label. My network is not very strong right now, but by the time you've made this search, there'll be a list of there'll be a list of open source repositories and their issues that are very friendly if you are not very grounded in your technical skills yet, or your technical writing skills yet, or documentation skills yet. Then you come across issues like this one. Yes, so this is my favorite open source organization, and I love contributing to this community. It's really, really friendly, beginner friendly, and interactive too. So yeah, this for instance, let's say I'm not like very, very good with my technical skills and I want to contribute to open source so badly. I'll just look at this issue and you see the label here. It says first time, first timers only, good first issue, help wanted. Okay, this is my first time. Why not just give it a try? So you click on this issue and it will take you to the particular issue where you can actually indicate interest that yes, you want to contribute to this issue. Hold on, why my network doesn't make my life miserable. Yeah, hold on, please. And that is just okay. Yeah, so this is the issue. This is a very good friendly issue that I want to fix. Okay, the issue says this, I can handle this, I can fix this issue. This is not so technical. So yes, I'm sorry about that. My network is not really friendly with me. I don't know if the recording cancelled, but okay. I think I'll just share my screen again. All right. So yeah, you will see the good friendly issue, and you've made your comment underneath here. It will be assigned to you, and once it's assigned, your name should be appearing at this end here as participant, and once you comment, your name will actually appear down here as a participant in that issue. And assignees, you see your name written boldly here. So we make a fork, and the essence of a fork is to give you a copy of that particular project without like spoiling the entire code base. So make a copy by clicking on your name there, and you will get a copy that you can work on, a fork that you can work on. So you make a clone, copy this URL, and then do git clone in your terminal, and you would have this in your local, on your desktop, and make your changes. By the time you're done making changes, you compare, you make your push, and then compare the changes, then open a pull request. And that is just about making your first PR. And yeah, so if you've not done this before, that is just about making your first PR. Then congratulations. If it gets messed, congrats. If there are changes to be made, then somebody will review your code and then tell you, suggest the changes that you are supposed to fix in that particular thing. Thank you so much. That is just about making your first contribution to open source. If you would want to like make a contribution and you're not like familiar, there are a few resources out here. You see the first time only. This is for like this website has friendly issue for first timers that have not made a contribution yet. So you can check out this website for contributions. You can also check out first contributions. This repository just has a way for you to make your first guide on how to create your first PR. I think yes. Or if you're a designer and you're looking for where to make a contribution or an open source community to get started with, here is a website, Open Source Design. They have like very friendly design issues, and that is just about contributing to open source. And I hope this section was detailed enough for you to make your first contribution and convincing enough for you to get involved in open source contribution. Thank you very much for your time and thank you for listening. My name is Anita Ihuman. You can connect with me via GitHub and also Twitter. Thank you, and I'll take any questions if there are any now.